Awesome. So, okay, so remind me again, what part of Canada are you in?
Toronto.
Oh, perfect. That's like the only part of Canada I know.
Well, it's got a very major airport, so I'm used
Yeah.
to people being able to explain it. My partner, he's from a small town outside Ottawa, so he's used to having to explain it for a few minutes extra.
Yeah. I actually know someone in Ottawa, Canada. That's hilarious. Like it's so small, right? Like I know
Yeah.
that person from across the street. That's too funny. Well, how are you doing today?
Oh, good. Just was up very early, so matter of time to the energy and the caffeine crashes.
What's early for you?
7 in the morning.
Oh, you're so cute. I love it. I was up at 5 a.m. today.
Uh,
See, there's a difference between what everyone else, what each person thinks is early or late to go to bed, or those kinds of things. That's why I like to ask, like, what is that to you? So 7
yeah,
a.m. is early for you. If you didn't have to wake up at 7 a.m., what's a normal time that you would get up?
9 in the morning. That's normally
Okay.
the routine.
Okay. Cool. Well, so you got to it today. That's awesome. Happy hump day to you. That's so cool. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a little quick real introduction here so everyone knows who we're talking to. So this is Rosemary Richings. Did I say your last name right?
Rich plus Ings, just think of the pronunciation.
Richings. Okay. She is an independent consultant that helps e-commerce and lifestyle brands take their company blog from a meaningless page filler to something that builds meaningful relationships with the right people. Through her work, she acts as a content manager. I almost said master. Are you the master?
I guess.
if I say so, right? I love it. She acts as a content manager, an editor, writer of blog posts or web copy, and a content strategist specializing in process of building the audience online and coming up with the right ideas. The clients that she's worked with include large brands such as eBay and Yellow Pages Canada, and independent startups such as Be Funky Inc. Oh, I use Be Funky. That's so fun.
Oh, sweet.
She has also been featured in sites such as Weebly,
Mm-hmm.
Weebly Inspiration Center, Search Engine Journal, Stories by Buffer, and more. Currently, she lives in a quiet urban lifestyle in Toronto, Canada, as we mentioned, with her partner, and spends a majority of her work days in the social. Is this where you are right now? Is that your
Mm-hmm.
co-working space?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, Roseanne, for joining us today. I'm so excited to have the viewers get to hear more about you and your story that surrounds about fear. So go ahead and tell us something interesting about you and your life that maybe we wouldn't know what, just by like stalking your LinkedIn or something. What's something interesting about you we wouldn't know?
Well, for starters, a big part of my motivation for doing a lot of the work I do is that I was born with a disability called dyspraxia, which affects my fine and gross motor skills. But a big part of that is that I learned how to read and write a little later than my peers. So I always very deeply empathize with people who are struggling to really just like tell their story and find the right words and things like that. And yeah, I guess that's been my biggest source of motivation for the longest time.
That's so cool. I love when people's life path is, they find that it's from their journey, right? Like you had those things stunted in your growth, and now you're helping other people because there's something you're really passionate about, making sure that people can find ways to communicate what they really want to talk about and move through those things. So that's really cool. So were you born in the Toronto area? You originally from the Toronto area then?
Yeah, I am I have some family in England, but I grew up here for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so let's dive in and have you tell us about the significant time in your life when fear was holding you back from living your life fully. Tell us about that story.
Oh man, well, the really for me would be where my journey started as an entrepreneur. I
Yeah.
started really young. I was fresh out of college. I was I was 5 months or so away from my 23rd birthday at the time, and really no one I knew at the time was trying the whole online business thing. So
Okay.
really, it was just the scariness and loneliness in the beginning of starting a business and having nothing to compare it to, and really making those mistakes along the way and thinking I was the only one doing that. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I really had to try a lot of ambitious things, make a lot of stupid mistakes. I think I missed a few deadlines in the beginning. I was much more of a generalist than I am now. And the hardest part was going beyond my comfort zone and reaching out to people, and really not being afraid to own up to what I bring to the table, and not see my age as some kind of thing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. That's so cool. That you realize that. So why your age?
Well, I really, before I started my own business, the only people I had to compare things to in terms of entrepreneurs, everyone was much older than me. So
Okay.
it seems like a silly thing now as I become part of more and more
Yeah.
entrepreneurship communities. But before that, everyone I knew was at least 20 or 30 years older than me, who was off starting great businesses and doing big book tours and things like that. So
Sure.
I, I thought that I didn't belong there because I was hearing all the success stories and I felt like I was doing the wrong thing.
Right. Like the fact that you were so young that people wouldn't take you seriously, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Because when I started, that's why it took me a bit too long to not be a generalist. Because when
Yeah.
I started, I was just taking on any writing projects I could get,
Yeah.
and I mean, I knew what I was good at, but I was afraid that people would not need that. But then I started to work with more and more clients, and that's where I gained my courage to really own up to things.
Yeah. I think a lot of that too is that it might not be that we think people won't need it. It's that people won't value what we're actually worth, right? Like you said, you know what you bring to the table, you know what you're good at. And I think a lot of the fear is that a lot of business owners are afraid to actually ask for what they're worth because they do know their stuff. They have done the research, they have the experience to back up what they're actually asking for in regards of being a business owner. That's the scary part. I think a lot of it resides around asking for what we're worth. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, especially with the popularity of things like Fiverr and all those kinds of platforms.
Yeah.
Uh, it was scary at first, to approach someone and say that I need a reasonable wage to do this, not I will do it for $10 a blog post or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So when you were having those fears, where were you mentally during that time, and how did you feel about yourself?
Well, the hardest part for me is really just the people in my personal life. Um, like I mentioned, I didn't have a very good community in terms of other entrepreneurs at
Yeah.
first. That took a while to establish. And in a way, my failures and my successes seemed harder to explain. And I felt like I was hiding a part of myself because
Yeah.
I wasn't being real about it. I wasn't saying I got this great client, but yeah, but then what happens after this? Or I got this, I went through a slow period, but it will be fine in a week or two. It really, the hardest part was explaining it to people and just owning up to it and being like, I am okay with this being my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And really getting people to take it seriously as a career path.
Right. Yeah. I think that's such a true thing too, is that especially because it's online, right? Like you're virtually working, so people don't understand a lot of it. Even still, like do you still find people in your realm that just don't understand you still with what you do, or are they
Oh,
more
yeah.
understanding now?
They're slightly more understanding, but even then they just assume I'm available all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. She works from home or whatever, like she's totally available right now.
Yeah.
I get that. I get a little same thing. Um, so okay, so let's talk about how you broke free from that. So let's talk about when you did. So moving free of like not caring as much and really just letting it go. Um, what what happened with the relationships in your life as we're talking about the people around you? Like how did that evolve for you? A lot of things shift and change when we go into a different direction than other people. And so just tell us like positive, negative, how did that show up in your life, in your story?
You know, with time, it took meeting other entrepreneurs. It took going to communities like this co-working space I'm at now, being part of online communities, talking to people, seeing that I wasn't weird to be doing what I was doing,
Right.
and really to just be meeting people who were doing similar things. And also just by doing the work as well. Like as I went on, I had more of a sense of the value, and I felt like I had the permission to own up to it and feel like what I was doing wasn't just writing, it was something much more than that.
Yeah, it was much, you connected with it on much more than a surface level for yourself, which in return can translate to the clients that you work with, and you are able to articulate the value stronger with what you do bring to the table. I think that is a big part of just having the experience of, getting those failures or the things that don't turn out the way we think they'll turn out, getting those things out under our belt and just learning how to pivot. I think that's a huge thing in entrepreneurship. Like we have to learn how to pivot when things don't go the way that we think they're going to, or we don't get the client that we thought was perfect for us. and just really figuring that out. So how did you go about finding your community? As we're talking about, you found like a like-minded community of people that understood you more in the virtual working space and that kind of thing. How did you start to find those people?
Well, I started to really push myself to get out to the right social events, to get out to business owner events, which was really exhausting first because I'm an extreme introvert.
Yeah.
So I would always, there would be times where I would go to several of these events in a week, and I'd get to the final one of the week and I'd just be exhausted. I would just have to tell people in my life that I just need to not talk to you and just look at a screen and not think for a while.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it was great to get out. It was great to go to those events, but I just had to accept that the payoff was that I would be really exhausted by the end of it.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point too, that I don't think we touched on. Like, I don't think that I've touched on in the past enough, that those face-to-face connection opportunities, I think are really crucial. I'm a very connection driven person, which is why we're on video right now. Because I like to see people's expressions and see how passionate they are about things, and cute. Like I like those visual cues. I'm a very visual person, but I think that a lot of that connection, so talking about going to events and getting out, and I mean, that's out of your comfort zone and out of, the normal thing that you would do, but you pushed yourself to do it because you knew you needed to start connecting with people that could understand you more and that were hopefully potential clients of yours. And that's how I like to do things too, is get out to do social events and start building those relationships and friendships from your outside circle. I think that's a really important piece.
Absolutely.
Did you find an online space as well?
Yeah. I a lot of Facebook groups, like for instance, one that was a big difference for me is I'm part of one called the Freelance to Freedom Project Facebook group. And through there, I met a lot of, actually plenty of writers who had similar goals. I met some other business owners, and one of them was someone who had been doing the whole business owner thing for much longer than I had. And she was doing similar things. And they had these weekly office hours where the point was you were just supposed to show up. You had no pressure to talk, but you were intended to just say like things that you've been finding tough lately and just help each other out, really. And groups like that made a huge difference in not only like getting the right clients, but in terms of making it less of just a lonely, solitary experience.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I love this, what we're talking about right now, because I have a business partner in one of my ventures that we have a virtual workspace where we get together with women 3 times a week, every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, from 2 to 3 p.m. Central Time. And we do it right through Zoom, and we come on and we say a victory to get everyone in a positive mindset. And then everyone goes around and they say what they're actually working on in this hour. And we're working on it. So then we shut off our cameras and our microphones and we go to work on the things that we said we were going to do, so that we get rid of that isolation and that alone feeling of not having those little wins. So we think, so many times we have like 15 things on our to-do list in a day and we get 13 of them done. And how many times are you only thinking about the 2 things that you did not accomplish at the end of the day?
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh man. And that's so essential.
As our own bosses, as our own people that like move the needle in our life and business altogether, we get down on ourselves so much that we built this workspace for women to find the community that helps celebrate them, keep them focused on the things, on the tasks that they need to accomplish in their day, even if it's just that hour that they have a focused work time. And then at the end, we come back at 10 minutes to 3 and we say, did you accomplish what you set out to do, Rosemary? Did you finish it? And if you didn't finish it, then we encourage you to finish it and put it in our private Facebook group, where we can then celebrate you for doing what you set out to do in your day. And then we mastermind about ideas at the end too. And we do monthly masterminds. Like, it's a whole big thing. So I love what you're talking about, because there is such a need for what we're providing for women, because the entrepreneur journey is so lonely. And the fact that we think that we're alone in these struggles of, I didn't get the client that I needed, that I thought I needed, that I thought was perfect, or, I messed up on some spelling grammars or whatever it is that people will ridicule you about online, right? Like, there's so many different aspects of being an online business owner. But I love that you used both virtual and in-person ways to start building a community around you to really feel supported and get out of your own comfort zone little by little. So do you still do both of those things? Do you still do like an online community and get out and do like in-person connection?
It's so essential. I do my best to. I find that when I am at my busiest points, it gets harder to. But I really find it's a reminder that everyone needs, especially in an age where there's a lot of like Facebook ads where it's some lady in a bikini on a beach saying like, I made 100K in like in a month.
Yeah.
My course. And that really makes people feel like what they're doing isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And when I look back at when I first started, I really realized what a great reminder it would be to like just have people saying it's okay, you missed that deadline, or you put that comma in the wrong place, or you said the wrong thing to that client, or anything like that.
Right. Giving constructive criticism to help better you instead of, on the negative side of things, or even worse, just us sitting in our own thoughts, I think is the most destructive thing too, because we're our own worst critics. So like you said, it could be like something as simple as an ad or something you scroll past online and you think it doesn't bother you, but those little things just add up and they add up and they add up. And then eventually something will be a tipping point, and then it can affect your not only business but your personal life too, in how you interact with all of the relationships around you. So I think that's really important, to find the balance in it and find a way to schedule it in your business life, if especially if you work remotely, I think is really important.
Oh yeah, especially if it's creative things, especially if
Yes.
it's quiet creative things. But I would also argue too, for even just like any kind of product or anything like that, in a very general sense of the word, uh, it can be very isolating to do that launch or whatever and not feel like you have a friend you can talk to about like your glitch with like
Yes.
Zoom chat or your glitch with MailChimp or anything like that. I think we feel so much pressure to just be the perfect business owner and to really like put the best versions of ourselves out there, but we're not robots. As silly as that sounds.
It's so true though. I mean, so true though. And I think that's true too, because technology, when I do like Facebook lives and I'm like, oh, I've worked with a lot of people that, not a lot, but a handful of people that are really nervous about getting on lives. And I do a lot of co-lives. And the people that are nervous about it, I'm like, you can't mess up being you. Just show up and be yourself. Like, that's all people want on these videos. They want to know that we're real and that we're not robots. That's why people like to watch videos instead of just pictures, because you can fake a picture and you can tweak things and edit them and make them look better than they really are. When video, we mess up, we say stupid things, and we are human error. Like, we make human errors. So I think that's a really great point too. Okay, so what compelled you specifically to jump ship from having those fears when they were holding you back?
Oh, just great experiences with clients. I mean, I think of the experience of working with any kind of customer or client or anything like that. It's a muscle like anything else. And the more you work out that muscle, the more it just starts to feel natural, and really just pushing myself into the right mindset for a call that I'm worried about or anything like that really makes a big difference. Like, for instance, I'm a actor's daughter, and a big thing I learned from that is just how much something like preparing for something or going outside and going for a walk beforehand can really change things from absolutely terrifying to absolutely doable. And I feel like just really taking that seriously from the beginning was what really started to help me like not feel as anxious about these things.
That's amazing. I love that. So what I got from that is, take a couple breaths and just like realize it's doable by getting out of the fear space of wondering, and get out and take a walk. I love that idea. That's so cool. So what advice would you give the viewers about overcoming fear in general? I know we've said a couple tips along the way. Is there anything else you would add to that other than like just getting out of it and maybe baby steps? I know we've kind of mentioned that, like just doing little step by step. Just anything in general about overcoming fears.
It's just so important to be kind to yourself. I mean, as someone who's putting something out there, you
Yes.
are your most important tool. So just anything where you're just taking care of yourself beforehand, making sure you have enough sleep, only doing the hours that work for you, things like that. Any sort of control that you can have over things like that can really make a big difference in terms of making things less intimidating and more doable and more producing your best work.
Boundaries, right? Like I think it's so important for us to have boundaries as owners of our businesses and the CEOs of our whole lives. We need to have our boundaries set for, like you said, hours that you work, things that you will say no to, clients that you don't want to work with, not just taking on any writing jobs and not just taking on any client that waves some money at you. If it's not the right kind of client, it could be just disastrous.
I learned that the hard way too. Like I had to work with some people that were calling me at all hours of the night and
Oh God.
surprised that something wouldn't take me an hour, to really realize that that's the most important thing you have to do. You have to make it clear that you are only available from certain times. That's the hardest thing to transition into when you're used to someone else determining your schedule.
Right. Having the freedom to make your own decisions of yes and no to things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love it. Oh, and I thought of something too that from the last question that I was going to ask and then it left and now it's back. You said something about that it's a muscle. And that made me think of my coach that her thing is she talks about confidence. Building your confidence is a muscle. We're not born with confidence. It is something we continuously are fostering day by day. And that was really sounded like what you were talking about is just doing them every day, like these little incremental things that stack up to the big wins. You said just working with your clients step by step, seeing when you had those little wins of, oh, I did a great job on that. I want to go find another client I can do a great job for and really impact them. And I think it's building the confidence muscle of you can do it. You're good enough. You know what you're doing and you are human and they will not like reprimand you for making silly mistakes or misspeaking, those kinds of things. Those aren't the clients that you want. Those are the clients that you stay away from if that's the case.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I would argue that'd be the same thing for a lot of stuff too. Like I talk to a lot of people who see me doing Facebook Lives or being on podcast or something like that. And they go like, how can you do that? I'm so afraid of being on camera. I'm insecure about whatever. And yeah, I mean, then I go, well, I used to be like that too. It's really just a matter of just practicing and just like getting the right equipment, doing whatever you need to do to feel good about yourself.
Like you said, in preparation, like that totally makes sense. And I love that you associated the fact that you are an actor's kid. Like you saw that's a life experience that you had in the fact that they have to prep for going to an acting job or anything like that. So you took that skill and that value that you saw there and you implemented in your life. I love how those things go together with like how we transition and transform in our lives today. So that's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you are familiar with moving through fear and you are living your life more fearlessly every day, where do you see yourself 5 years from today?
Oh, really just getting more people involved in the work that I do. I love it and it's been great and I built up a lot of great experiences, but whatever I can do to collaborate is a good thing. I know that sounds very broad, but I'm just going to continue to get as many collaborations as I can and build on this and get more people involved. And yeah.
Cool. Do you have a specific like type of blog that you like to work with?
Well, there is my blog, which is much more of a small business blog, but
Okay.
I've done a lot more lifestyle content. And that has very much been what I've built my business on.
Okay. So tell us more about your business. You personally have your own blog, but you also do content creation for the other businesses. So is there, I mean, you told us in your bio a couple of the businesses that you've worked with, big names and not, and all of that. Do you specifically have a niche that you like to like report on for writing blogs or anything like that?
Well, more just e-commerce and lifestyle stuff.
Okay.
Those ones are an example of some of the ones that I've ended up working with. But
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. And that's what you
really, I've kind of built it on doing a more hands-on approach of like having helping with the SEO, helping with how the social media is a big part of things, how email marketing is a big part of things, since I really noticed a gap in my market in terms of writers. People needed a lot more than just writers. They also needed like help with the bigger picture of like reaching people. And that's
right.
pretty much the big picture of what it's about.
Right. I mean, even if someone is a great writer and they don't have things like SEO or knowing where to even post the content and stuff, it's not going to get visible and it's not going to be seen by the people that need to see it in order to actually make an income from it or make an impact, even more so than the people that need to see it won't see it, right? Like there won't be any impact on the message that people are trying to send out. What are your thoughts on Pinterest?
I personally haven't gotten into it in a big way, but I know it's worked for some genres more than others. And it can be a good way to reach certain niche communities. It really just depends on who you're trying to reach.
Okay. I feel like I see a lot of blog content on there. So I was just curious if you had any thoughts on that community, but if you haven't dove into it, I guess that's your thought on it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so where is the best place for the viewers to connect with you?
Well, a few different places. So my main service website is just my first name and my last name, rosemaryrichings.com. My blog is rosiewritingspace.com. And then the social media platform that I'm the most active on is Twitter. So that's at rosiemay_r.
Okay, perfect. And I always like to ask, what is one last thing that you want to leave the viewers with about fear and living fearlessly?
Well, I know I'm kind of repeating myself with this one, but just it's okay to make mistakes. Just don't be afraid to make mistakes. And there's always something valuable that people can learn from that.
Just do it. That's all I'm hearing. Just do it.
Yeah.
Feel the fear and do it anyways, right? Like you're gonna win either way because you're gonna learn either it was good or bad, and that's a lesson that you're gonna need to learn. So you won't know unless you try, right?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Rosemary. This was so great to get to hear more about you and your story and hear more about your business and the things that you have going on. So thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice chatting with you.
Absolutely. Everyone that's watching, remember to love yourself and live fearlessly. Thanks, everyone.